So in this video, I want to show you a variety of the features in the Data tab that you're going to find very useful for your project. So the first main thing is involving sorting. Sorting is going to be super important. You should usually have the first row across here as headers, which are labeling things. So those are your variable names. But being able to sort and specify that the data has headers, it's looking for that. Sorting by a variety of things is useful. So for example, suppose I want to sort by population and find the largest down to the smallest. I can do that. So what I have here is data, actually it's county level population data estimates from both Minnesota and Milwaukee. So you can quickly see that Minneapolis area is more populous than the Milwaukee area of Wisconsin. But there's going to be a variety of different ways that you might sort things. And so you can sort things at multiple levels, and we'll get back to that later. Now, the data set that I got is from the American Fact Finder, and this is population, again, population data by county. I only have 2 states here, but if you were doing this for a country or for the whole US, you would have 50 states and you would have thousands of counties, right? And one of the things that might be useful is to actually have the state level population data. So what I want to show you is a couple ways of splitting the data and then ways of using if statements. If statements are going to be really important at being able to sum and average and do interesting things with the data that would take you a long time to calculate by hand. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to separate the county and the state into 2 different columns. So the first thing to do is take a couple of these columns and insert. So you can right click and insert. And so we want to create some blank space here. This is especially useful because sometimes you're splitting data. If you could, for example, have data that gives you a date and it says January 2nd, 2020, and you want to split that into day, month, and year. And so you're going to need 3 different columns for it to split into. But what I want to do here is figure out where is my natural break going to be. And so I can have the county in one spot, and then I could have the state in the next. So what I'm going to do is highlight this column, and then what you want to use is called text to columns. It's going to take a line of text and split it into different columns. So we'll click on this. Again, this is all in the Data tab. And they ask you a variety of ways you want to do this. Delimited means it's going to look for a specific character, and that's where it's going to break. Fixed width means it's going to look for a particular number of characters in and break there. So for example, if your date is always listed as 01/01/2020, then you could actually do fixed width and break it after the first 2 characters. That breaks off the month. After the next 2 characters, that breaks off the year. And then it'll split that one. But delimited is what we want because we're going to use the comma in here to help us figure this out. So there are some standard ones that it will look for. You could include other. In fact, a lot of times I have to use the other. But in this case, we're going to go with a comma. Now, you could also do this with a space if you wanted to split Hennepin and county, so you had Hennepin County, right? Because you might see a lot of counties are redundant. So I'll show you a couple different iterations of this. But first thing I'm going to do is just use the comma. And they give you a little preview of what this looks like. Notice one of the problems here when we do this, I'll show you, this is going to clean it up. There's a space in front of the M and in front of the W when you do this because there's a space after the comma. But let's just go through this and see what this looks like and finish. All right, so I have Hennepin County and now I have Minnesota. So now I could split this up and call this county and then state. Now if I look at Minnesota and I go up to the top and I arrow to the left, I can see there's a space here. And I don't want that. You generally want to get rid of your spaces. Some statistical programs might actually have a problem with it. So what I'm going to do here is going to be really simple. I'm going to highlight this again. I'm going to go back to text to columns, and I'm going to go either fixed width and just take off the very first one. Let's do that. Or I could do delimited. I could do delimited by a space. All right, and so it's actually going to break this up into 2 columns. The first column has all the spaces, and the second column has the states. But I want to go back so I can do the fixed width part because this is actually easier. Fixed width, you let them know where you want it. And so I want this break after the first character. So that's where it's going to break it up. And then I hit finish. And so this, see, it even did it with the header. It split the state into S and then tape. So let's just fix that. But you can see now there is no space in front of here. And over here, there should be just a row, a column of spaces. So I'm going to delete that and I'm done with it. Now, if you didn't want to see all the counties in here, you could do something similar, and you could break it out by space, so it would drop it and go Hennepin and then county. But if I'm doing that, I need to make a little extra space here because you don't want it to overwrite the data that's over there. So I'll do this for you. I'm going to make a little extra space just in case. You can't go wrong with leaving too much space here. There are going to be some counties like St. Louis County, right? So all of these other ones have one name, Ramsey, Dane, Dakota, but St. Louis has two. And so that's going to be a problem for us. But maybe we want to do it. So let's see what happens. Let's go text to columns again. We're going to go delimited by the space. I can get rid of these. It's just going to look at the space. And I'm going to finish. And now you see what happened with St. Louis. So that's a problem, right? So what do we do about it? Well, here's what we do about it. We highlight all the data, or you can do Control A for all, but make sure when you do Control A, you do Control A again so you get everything. Because what it's going to do is sort of think you have two different areas of data and you don't want to mix them, but this is all one big data set and we don't want to screw it up. So play it safe and always hit Control A twice, and then that does the entire document. That's a tip. So one of the things that I can do here is I can sort on column C. And if I sort on column C, what this is going to do is say, let's see, we'll go up here, column C. It's going to pull anything that has a county all the way to the top. So I'm going to do that. Oh, look, I got Lake of the Woods. So I got a bunch of stuff here. So now all of the counties that I have, I'm just scrolling down. I had 159. I could go hand by hand and go down there, but now I'm going to do this a whole lot faster and just type Lake of the Woods, Lac Qui Parle, that's a weird one, Fond du Lac, St. Louis. There's actually a way, if you wanted, you can make an equation that will add the text in two columns together with a space. That's one of those things you can find out how to do online. There aren't that many of these, so it's probably going to take longer to actually try to look it up than it would be to just do these 15 of them by hand. And Red Lake. All right, so now I'm good. These are all county. I'm just going to take a bunch of counties, hit Control C and copy, and paste here and paste there and get rid of that. And then I'm going to delete these cells. And now I can get rid of this county by highlighting it, right-clicking, and deleting the whole thing. So I've just taken all my data and split it into county and state, and that was pretty simple. So I'm going to leave this video now, and in the next video what we're going to do is use some if statements to show you how we can add these all up by state.